So I think a lot of you have seen me on stage earlier today. I'm Martina Welkhoff, one of the founding partners of the WXR Fund, and I am joined here with my dear friend Marco DeMiroz of the Venture Reality Fund. If you don't know him already, you should. This is a very important figure in our industry and definitely an amazing ally for women in the space and a big part of why the WXR Fund is what it is today. So we're going to get into that story. But first, I wanted to talk about the Venture Reality Fund and the origins of that fund and why you and Tipitat decided to start it and how you got it off the ground. So let's start with that story.
Thank you. By the way, just full disclosure, this is what we call M&M show.
Yeah, we take this on the road. We're really
We've covered
well
from
rehearsed.
what, California to Vancouver, right?
It's international.
International. We have an agent. Malia is the agent. Really, Tipitat deserves the full credit, and we were.
Here. He was here earlier.
Here? Actually, I'm giving you a suntan here. Super bright. After I sold the mobile game company, joined Evolution Media Capital, and Tipitat and I ended up collaborating, investing in Jaunt VR. That was their C round. And right after, Tipitat honestly kept bugging me, saying, we got to start a fund. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I'm like, no, I'm already with a big fund. Anyway, he was right, I was wrong. So January 2016, we quit our jobs and started the fund. And honestly, we didn't know where the money was going to come from, but we thought we believe in AR, MR, VR, and it's going to transform our lives. And in the meantime, Tipitat had cured himself of fear of heights. So we thought it's beyond entertainment. It's going to change our professional and sort of personal aspects of our lives. And we started the fund. Fast forward, we targeted at that time 50 million, raised most of that money, and we've been very active investing in great entrepreneurs. We're just closing our 22nd investment in a WXR.
Yeah,
company.
double woohoo. Can we say who yet?
Yes, Morgan Mercer.
Yeah, she had to leave because she had a very important meeting this afternoon, but she was here earlier today, up on the stage.
So that was our starting point, and we thought there's so much opportunity in the market to really help entrepreneurs, and we kept raising money and investing at the same time, and that's what we're doing. We'll continue to invest probably in 10, 15 more companies with the current fund and start a new fund after that.
Keep getting bigger and better. Love it. Yeah. So now we're going to dive into the WXR story and how I know this guy and how I know Malia and Abby. So I'm just going to quickly provide some context on how we met. So after I did a VR production in early 2017, that had a feminist theme and was kind of tied to the Women's March. And Marco reached out to me and said, I'd really love to talk to you about how we can better support women in the industry. And this was just sort of I knew Tipitat already at this point, but it was the first time I'd heard from Marco. And I was sort of, I was curious. I was like, I don't know who this guy is, what his real interest is, but I'll have coffee with him. We ended up talking for 3 hours that first day. I almost missed my flight.
Did you miss your flight?
I almost missed my flight, yeah. Because it was just like mind meld and really, really on the same page. And he introduced me to Malia, who introduced me to Abby, and the magic began when all of us got together. We don't have 3 hours to rehash that whole conversation, but I would love to hear what motivates you. Why do you care about having more women in the industry? Why do you care about inclusion? Why does it matter to you?
So I want to go back a little. So this really started about 2 years ago, and Malia and I were talking about, I had the good fortune of meeting her, we totally connected, and we're looking at the entrepreneurs, and you have, Marine Fan and Christina Heller, and, really all around the world, incredibly robust and vibrant women entrepreneurs in the sector. And we thought, if you look at the venture market in general, the money doesn't really go to women, founders. And to be honest, kept trying to figure out how do we create a vehicle to enable that. And somebody said, oh, you guys should really connect with this awesome person called Martina from Seattle. So that was the conversation. As soon as you jumped on Uber and I called her and I said, Malia, we found the right person. And then, last year you guys got on stage at VR LA and announced it, and Abby joined before then. So, for us, it was really something we completely committed to, we believe in. I think the time has come and really passed to have a fair and balanced distribution of capital to women entrepreneurs. If you look at last year numbers, about 2% of the capital went to women founders, and 7% in our sector, which is still incredibly embarrassing. And when I talk to you, I think we have about 40% of our portfolio companies had a sort of woman co-founder or exec in the founding team. And I was looking at the numbers, we're about 36% right now. And our goal is really to have a very balanced representation of reflective of the market. If you look at the market and if you look at the room and any other conferences in XR, you see incredible number of women entrepreneurs and innovators, and we want to make sure the capital allocation reflects that.
That's awesome. And when so you have a pretty strong representation of women founders in your portfolio. Have you noticed any differences in companies with women leadership? Are there any kind of trends that you've noticed, or even just in individual relationships, sort of anecdotal pieces that are distinct?
To be honest, they're all, overall, if you look at, the investment profile of a company, you really want to have a very solid founding team, and you want the CEO to be, committed, passionate, and driven, and also flexible enough that he or she can change, given the sort of global market dynamics. So from our perspective, we'll love to work with very strong teams and CEOs, and women entrepreneurs fit that model really well. We're closing our deal with Morgan. She's an incredible entrepreneur. She has a strong vision and super impressive. And our goal is to really be part of her journey, help her build a team, and really see her succeed.
So that's a great segue. You and Tipatat have great reputation. Maureen was singing Tipatat's praises earlier on stage about how helpful he's been. And I've heard that from a lot of the entrepreneurs, both in your portfolio and those you haven't invested in. You're super helpful. So how do you, give us some specifics on how you try to add value as a VC? What are some of the things that you do to help the companies you're mentoring?
I don't know if I'm the right person, because I think VC's value add is overstated. It's really, honestly, if you look at the successful company, it's true. And, the founding team and the CEO is really the driving force. And I feel like our role is a supporting cast member to enable her in terms of, helping with the maybe product roadmap, strategic, partnerships, and provide the guidance at the time the CEO needs it. Mm-hmm. And our model is very flexible. Really, some CEOs want to talk to us every other day, some once a month. Some like, I'll call you when I need you. Mm-hmm. And our objective is to find a model that really fits the team's need. Mm-hmm. And as you know, it's never a linear process. Some companies go through, they get ready for a new round of financing. We help them with the pitch and positioning introductions, or they need a launch partner on the strategic side. We try to, help. So a very flexible, very, I would say, adaptive model to whatever the team needs.
Awesome. So let's switch gears back to Ally then. I know you do some very specific things. You have some practices that I think a lot of people in the room would probably love to learn from in terms of how you engage as an ally, and what are some practices that you have to help support women and elevate women in the industry?
Well, I feel like you're really...
I'm giving you a leading question.
Okay. Our commitment is, personally, and for Tipatat also, we decided last year, I think about a year and a half ago, we said we're not going to get on panels unless it's gender balanced, right? And frankly, there's no reason not to be gender balanced. A lot of times when we heard from the organizers, well, we can't find a woman exec. No, that's just complete BS. There's so many execs in any country, any company that you look for. And we thought, okay, let's build a website. I think Jen and Julie are doing similar stuff at Shift. But if you go to our website, we have our networks page, and it's a dynamic page. We continue to add more women entrepreneurs on the page, so that nobody can call me back and say, hey, I can't find anybody to be on a panel, because there are hundreds and thousands of qualified women entrepreneurs. So I made a policy of tell the organizers, I'm not going to be on a panel unless it's gender balanced. And I looking back, I get sort of ostracized by a couple of conferences. But from our perspective, this is really the simple stuff we can all do. And creating diversity and balanced perspective and representation is really important. And we're seeing effect of it. I was showing you earlier today, just this morning in my tweet feed, IBC, which is a major conference in Europe, and their steering committee said they're committed to have 50-50 gender balance on their panels, which is great.
Yeah. And that, yeah, deserves some applause. That's awesome. And that really makes a difference. You know, I think a lot of us can feel it here at AWE this year. There's a much more diverse speaker lineup overall, and it's just awesome. And it really, I've talked to several women throughout the conference who have commented on how important that's been. And I think for our industry, you know, sending a statement that we welcome all sorts of people, and this is really something where we want a lot of different voices contributing is very meaningful. So,
can I interrupt? Since we're used to each other, I think we should
Always
acknowledge Tom and Super Ventures.
Yes,
really
definitely.
For organizing, incredible and awesome AWE, plus also providing WXR forum.
Yeah, definitely. And he reached out to us, we should say, after our first pitch showcase. You know, he said, we really want you at AWE. And so he totally offered this platform up and has been an incredible supporter. So yeah, I see people stepping up from all aspects of the industry, and it's so encouraging to me. It really makes me believe we can do things differently here. So. And I just wanted to mention too, you know, I think you do a lot of things you may not even realize because they're just so part of who you are. But, you know, Marco's always amplifying the voices of women on Twitter, always opening doors. You've opened up so many doors for me and for the WXR community, and just really, really appreciate that. So I want to give you a round of applause.
No, you guys are great. Thank you.
Great example of how we can do it. So I think we're almost out of time. So I want to kind of talk to you about some of the classic investor questions before we get off stage. So you mentioned this really briefly earlier, but I know we have founders in the room, and we you know, a lot of founders at the conference. So could you distill down the couple of the most important things you look for in a founder, not necessarily in a pitch, but when you're looking at a founder, what makes you feel like, oh, this is someone I really want to bet on?
I would say, you know, assuming the market opportunity is big and all that, in terms of sort of personality, it's really a sort of feeling the deep sense of commitment and passion and having the vision to pursue and execute, because a lot of times starting point is never the ending point. And for us, you know, we provide capital to help her fulfill her dreams. And for us, the commitment and passion level is really important. And also ability to sort of build a team and work with that. Yeah, but initial impression, we look for, is she really committed? Is this a big passion? She really wants to sort of change the world. And I would say in Morgan's case, she definitely wants to do that. And I know she'll do it with or without us. But that's really those intangibles we look for.
Mm-hmm. And when you're evaluating investments in the XR space, how do you think the factors that you're looking at, given that this is such a nascent space and we're, you know, pretty early on, how do you think the way that you evaluate deals differs than more established spaces? What kinds of considerations do you have that may be different than, you know, let's say an enterprise SaaS or something like that?
Yeah, I guess, you know, by definition, early stage investing is pretty risky, and in an emerging market, even riskier. So what we try to do is from really day one, we started the fund January 2016 and made our first investment in March, like 2 months after. We were trying to align the product vision and market opportunity the company wants to pursue with market dynamics. Because if you're too early, then you become an R&D project and you sort of have a product way, you know, behind the market. Or if you're too ambitious, you get ahead of the market and you don't really sort of catch up with the opportunity. Our general expectations are, can they have a commercially viable product within 9 months after funding? Mm-hmm. And is that 9-month window relevant to market? Mm-hmm. So is there an early adopter community? Can they really sort of establish a meaningful beachhead? Can they grow beyond that as the market evolves? So we've done, you know, then what you do is stuff that you do early in an emerging market, you may not do later in the emerging market. An example would be tools and platforms. You know, when if in early stage, you need a lot of computer vision tools and, you know, product development tools and ideation, collaborative tools and so forth. If you go sort of 3 to 5, 6 years into the market evolution, those become commoditized, mm-hmm. right? So, and then your goal is, if we're investing in a tool and platform company, if they become one of the top 3 companies in that sector, you'll make venture multiples. So we try to, again, align the investment opportunity within what's real and what's happening in the market. And again, when there's an inflection point like XR, game and entertainment tend to take off faster than other sectors. What's unusual in VR, especially for VR, is enterprise, because enterprise doesn't depend on install base, right? You can have a SaaS licensing model, and you can bundle the PC and HMD with each license. So we're seeing that sort of adoption behavior in the markets, and we try to really align our investments with market, a little bit ahead of the market, but too much, and sort of like a Goldilocks zone. You know, you don't want to be too early, you don't want to be too late.
Just right. Just right. So given that, it's been 2 years now that you've been investing from the VR fund. Has your portfolio emphasis shifted at all with that evolution, or is it too soon for that in your own investments?
It has. The composition changed. So if you look at our early investments, computer vision solutions and so forth, and we did a lot of VR-heavy investments for both entertainment and enterprise, and really since last year we but our deal flow composition really sort of weighted towards AR. And when I said VR early on, I would say 80+% of our initial investments, all portfolio companies in that group, they had AR strategy later on. They just didn't know the timing of it. Yeah. And now, current deal flow, I would say 70% AR. And AR, again, we're looking at some enabling tools and infrastructure plays as well as verticals.
So again, for the founders in the room, if they're thinking about raising money, what would you say is a good point in a company's trajectory to really start thinking seriously about raising money? Let's say they've been bootstrapping. What are some milestones you'd like to see before they start?
It really depends. I'm sorry.
No, that was it.
Yeah. So if you're talking to specialized funds like us, we like to see some symptom of the vision. And it's really hard for us, especially in AR and VR, are expressive mediums. So, and you can have a vision, but the vision may not manifest the way it's marketable. So we'll love to see a vision or some demo or some idea of how their vision is manifesting as a product. And that's really important to us, especially on the VR side when you're doing storytelling, gaming, and content creation. That's extremely important. Coming from mobile gaming side, we saw that PC console designers couldn't really transition to mobile, different form factors. And similar challenge remains for those coming into VR because it's spherical medium. And you have to tell a story. The audio matters. And so all these factors are pretty new and still evolving. And for both AR, MR, and VR, we'll really look for some sort of demonstration of how their vision will come true.
Okay, that's great. So now you know when you should come knock on Marco's door. And got that.
Our door's always open. I really try to get back to everyone on LinkedIn.
He does. It's pretty amazing,
and unfortunately, if I know entrepreneurs take it personally. If you look at our deal flow and typical venture investing model, you really say 95+% no. That's just the nature of our business. To me, that's the hardest part of being an investor.
Yeah, I agree. It's been a hard learning curve. So I'm getting the wrap it up from Malia. So I think we gotta get on to that second half of our awesome pitches. But thank you so much, Marco. And WXR would not be what it is today without this guy. So thank you, and really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.